The Sega Dreamcast was, for many gamers, the first online multiplayer experience they had with a home console. It was for me anyway. So the system, it shipped with the modem and was ready to go. At first, with the online connectivity, there were some games that allowed you to download DLC and other weird little things and, store that content to the VMU. But over time, there were quite a few games that had online multiplayer, like Choo Choo Rocket, Phantasy Star Online, Daytona USA, the NBA and NFL 2K games, and Alien Front Online, which was the first time I'd played a game with like voice chat online. Very interesting. It was amazing at that time. So unfortunately, Sega cut the official online connectivity to their servers on September 30th, 2003 for the final games that they still supported, which was Phantasy Star Online version 1 and 2. Very sad times. I love those games. Now, the Dreamcast, it's still one of my favorite systems, and recently I wanted to see if you were still able to go online on an actual Dreamcast to continue playing these games, obviously by other means. And yes, you can, and actually fairly easily. I believe there are several ways to get back online with Dreamcast games, but I wanted to use the DreamPi method, which is listed to be easy and cheap to do compared to other options. With the DreamPi method, you need a few things. So it is simple, but you got to be prepared. You need a Raspberry Pi with a micro SD card. It can be a Pi 0, a Pi 3, or a Pi 4, and pretty much any variant of those. The Pi 5 is not currently supported, though. You'll also need a compatible USB modem. There are a few that are compatible, but you'll need to make sure the modem has a line voltage inducer built in or have one made for it. So the Dreamcast Live website does have a shop where they sell USB modems with the line voltage inducer built in for $30, which is where I got my modem, but they're often sold out, and when they are in stock, it's very limited. You can find pre-made line voltage inducer cables on eBay and other places for around $15 in case you need one. Links for recommended items will be in the description if you want to follow along and get your Dreamcast online. So you can run your Dreamcast with this type of setup through Wi-Fi or go hardwired. If you're going hardwired, obviously you're going to need an Ethernet cable. But either way, Wi-Fi or hardwired, you're still going to need a normal RJ11 phone cable to plug into the USB modem and then into the Dreamcast. So in this video, I'm using my modded Dreamcast to go online. So my system loads games through an M2 SSD drive instead of discs. But this will work with stock systems running original discs, burn discs, whatever you got going on. Any Dreamcast setup, that you have with an ODE, any which way it's going to work. But either way, you will need access to the Dreamcast web browser to configure your connection. So either an original disc or the disk image file, depending on how your Dreamcast loads games. So the first step, it's going to be downloading the DreamPi Raspberry Pi image and then flashing it to a micro SD card. I use Win32 Disk Imager to write the image, but you can use Etcher if on a Mac or Linux PC for this step. Once the image is written to the SD card, we can now put that into our Raspberry Pi, plug in the USB modem into the Pi, and if using a Pi 0, you will need a USB hub that plugs into the micro USB port since the Pi 0 doesn't have other USB ports, right? Now you take your phone cable, plug that into the USB modem, and then the other end into the Dreamcast modem. Now, since I'm going to play my Dreamcast through Wi-Fi off of the Pi 0, I will need to have the Pi plugged into a monitor via HDMI and have a keyboard ready to use with it. If going hardwired, you don't need to have the Pi plugged into a display unless you want to monitor the connection. So to configure the Wi-Fi connection, we power on the Pi. Then once prompted, we log in using Pi as the username and Raspberry as the password, all lowercase. Now, once logged in, we now have to type the command sudo Wi-Fi config, hit enter, then put in our Wi-Fi network name and password. Once you complete that step, simply type sudo reboot and hit enter to restart the Pi. Now, every time you want to go online with your Dreamcast, you just power it on with the Raspberry Pi and modem hooked up and powered on. You shouldn't need to go back into the Pi system to do anything else. Pretty simple stuff. And we're almost there. That's probably the hardest part, I guess, and really took like 30 seconds. Now, the next step, which is the final step, will be configuring the connection on your Dreamcast side. That's where we need a Dreamcast web browser disk or those files if you're using an ODE. You can also use a copy of Quake 3 Arena and use the internet connection settings through that to do this next step. So in the web browser ISP settings, we have to put a few things. Phone number needs to be 111-1111. Login ID can be whatever you want. Password needs to be Dreamcast, all lowercase. Primary and secondary DNS needs to be set to 0.0.0.0. Don't change any other settings and simply save everything. Should be good to go. Now, most games for the Dreamcast won't need any other, configurations to go online, but a few may need some other minor steps to be done in order to play online. You could view the requirements for all games in the connection guide on the Dreamcast Live website. Link's going to be down below, so you can double check that. But for me, the main game I wanted to play is Phantasy Star Online. So if that's what you want to play, if you want to play version 1, the stock game can automatically work with DreamPi, no problem. But version 2 needs the Silverant PSO patcher to either be burned to its own disk and boot that up, then swap disks when prompted, or you can download a pre-patched version of the game, burn it to disk, or load the files through Dreamcast, ODE like the GDEMU or Terra Onion mode. I'm sure there's other ways of going about it, but this is just the way I saw, and this is the way I followed, and works just fine for me. So PSO Palace, they actually have the ROM files already pre-patched with the IVES packs that allow an automatic connection to the server, and has some other bug fixes and enhancements, which is what I'm using to play the game. Now, when you load up PSO, you'll need a serial number and access key, which was originally included with physical copies of the game and were unique, right? So use those if you have them, but if you don't have them with your disc or you're loading games through, an ODE, you can wind up using other keys that you find online. There's shared sets, or you could use, software that generates random keys. I'll have resources for all that stuff listed below. So in this video, my main demonstration has been playing PSO Online, but there's plenty of other games you could play. Sometimes I haven't been able to find many people playing some of these games. That's why I didn't record much footage of other stuff, just mainly PSO. But there are communities and people out there who schedule sessions to meet up to get more people online. Dreamcast Live has their own schedule listed. For example, PSO is played on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's a good time to meet up with others if you want to have a lot more people online. But you can log in and go online at any random time, and sometimes you'll find a good number of people. It just depends on the game and the popularity, right? But you can go online, organize your own meetups, do whatever you want, and start playing. I think it's really awesome being able to get online with an actual Dreamcast over 20 years after the services were shut down. And I love that there's communities still keeping this stuff alive. The Dreamcast online gaming at the time when it came out was magical. And for me, never forgotten that. So it's really cool to get back online. Really do appreciate you guys. Hope this video helped. Let me know what you think. Catch you on the next one. Bye.